Hi, everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but the slides aren't that important. I'm mostly just talking about everything. So it's just a need. Um, so uh, I'm Pardis, Noorzad. I've built and managed data teams. I previously worked in healthcare at Carbon Health, social networks at Twitter, payments at Paytm, and e-commerce at a startup that has since been acquired, RubaCloud. Today, I want to talk about some of mine and others' experiences in evaluating ML platforms, both those which cover the end-to-end and those which cover distinct parts of the ML pipeline. Just recently, I spoke with around 20 ML platform companies and 10 other data platform companies to understand the challenges they face in ensuring client success during the evaluation phase. In particular, I was interested to understand the challenges at the very first step in the evaluation process, which is that of data collection and transfer. So I want to talk about how platform companies address some of the existing challenges, some of the needs that remain unmet, and finally, some of the properties of a potential solution. As we go through these topics, it might help you recall some of your experiences that you might already have. You might have had in, any ideal solution or ideal features that you have in mind. It would be great to connect and continue the conversation beyond today's talk. When it comes to evaluating platforms or any piece of software, one approach is to allow customers to install on-premise, right? So to avoid transfer altogether. This works particularly well for open source solutions and also proprietary solutions, which can be packaged and installed on-prem. Of course, the drawback to this approach is that you need to ensure that your customers are savvy, such that they use the platform as is intended to its full potential to ensure a fair and correct assessment of the capabilities and features of the platform. This is one of the reasons why, as you know, many software companies skip this approach and move directly to a hosted cloud solution. This way, they can more efficiently manage versioning, bugs, customer service. Another reason has to do with compute and GPU resources. Platform companies sometimes need to tune and manage the cloud services in a way to manage costs, performance. Sometimes they want to move data to where GPU costs are affordable. All of this is not something that can be ensured with an on-prem solution. Now, the good news is that many platform companies offer cloud-native solutions spanning multiple cloud providers. And so once the customer signs an agreement, no transfer of data would be necessary. However, this is certainly not the case for all platforms. And therefore, sometimes data transfer is inevitable. The issue is that even before getting to that final step, as companies evaluate the platform of choice, they are required to transfer data to the platform such that the results can closely mirror the outputs as they would in a real world setting. So let's talk about the status quo in data transfer and some of the workflows used for transferring data today. Now, one of the most popular methods is to set up an SFTP server, download the data from the warehouse into a CSV, upload the data to the SFTP server. The receiver then downloads the data, then uploads it to their warehouse using some non-trivial tool. Another approach would be to replace the SFTP server with a cloud storage bucket. In both cases, data needs to leave the cloud, get stored as a CSV where important type information may be lost, temporarily stored on some computer, then with the help of additional tooling uploaded to the lake or warehouse at the destination. Obviously, this is not fun. There are a variety of tools and services for cloud-to-cloud transfer, direct transfer, but the market is very fragmented and a solution would be specific to a particular choice of cloud. This makes the task not something either side really wants to take on. Additionally, as these pipelines become more complex, they leave the scope of the data team and the task falls on DevOps or engineering teams to facilitate the transfer. This is not ideal as the platform companies want to interact directly with the teams which will become the users of the platform as they iterate on the required data to be transferred with the team. And to want to work with a team that has the domain knowledge and the use cases and actually wants to make the final decision. Um, Also, managing security and staying compliant is not easy and sometimes close to impossible. However, even during the evaluation phase, customers are required to stay compliant with HIPAA, GDPR, CCPA, and other legislation depending on the type of data they manage. Without the right tech, it's difficult to remain compliant. Local machines are not the best place to store data, even temporarily, before uploading to an SFTP server. Sometimes customers mistakenly send data containing PII without the right contract in place. That's personally identifiable information. This means that their teams would now be responsible to scrub the data. With the current approach to data sharing and transfer, it is difficult for either side to send requirements or validate the data in flight. Don't send PII, for example, maintain the schema, ensure data is complete. For example, for a forecasting task, ensure data contains entries for all days of the week or all seasons. For the fraud detection task, ensure that the main types of fraud are captured. And this is not all. When customers are evaluating multiple different platforms at different times, each gets a slightly different version of the data since different people could have been responsible for the transfer. It's hard to keep track of source of truth, which causes issues in the fairness of the evaluation. It also makes it difficult to handle audits. Which company was sent which data? So, what do we look in a solution? Um, there has to be a better way, and there should be. So, we want a stack agnostic solution that could work for any two peers. So, platforms and their customers can focus on the task at hand instead of the nuances of cloud storage infrastructure. A platform's cloud strategy should not be the reason why customers are not signing up to see a POC, why they're evaluating fewer platforms, why they can't find the best solution for their particular needs. Um, we'd like to be able to manage one source of truth that we share with all platforms while we're evaluating. And we want it to come at not much of an additional time investment per platform for the customer. Managing privacy and security and staying compliant is easy when you have the right tools that manage the transfer of data, handling permissions and processes, handling masking, hashing, encryption as needed, allows companies to start sharing data more quickly and sometimes without having to commit to complex agreements upfront. This takes us to the important topic of data validation. As we previously spoke about, both sides should be able to run tests to validate the data in flight. The customer needs to ensure they're not mistakenly sending private fields, for example. They need certain automated tests in alignment with the various types of legislation with which they need to comply. The platform company may have certain requirements that they would like the data to meet, so they too can create tests. Unlike traditional software applications, ML systems depend on a lot of data to evaluate, and that's really key here. In every ML project, a lot of time is spent bringing data to where it needs to be. We want to move from manual script-driven transfer to something easier and more secure. So we're in the discovery phase. We want to work with you to bring this to life. Let's connect via Slack, on Twitter, LinkedIn, email. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Kevin, people at Apply Tecton for having me here today. Thanks to Demetrios for the extra time.